Hi, I'm Jenny Fish from One Big Happy Yarn Company. Welcome to our Cupid's Twist Gloves Knit Along. In this episode, we'll be going over the pattern and supplies needed to make these elegant gloves. Then we'll cast on, join in the round, and knit the ribbing. We have everything you need to knit with us at onebighappy.com. Let's get started. Well, here are our gloves. We're using 2 strands of yarn to make these gloves. We're using this very soft and lofty Rowan Kidsilk Haze. And we are also combining that with Madelinetosh Sock. So this is a smoother yarn, and then this yarn gives it the lofty, halo, comfy, warm, elegant charm to these gloves. So I have both my skeins of yarn over here. I'll be holding them together, which is called 2-stranded knitting, as we go along. So that's my yarn. I have some other optional supplies. I've got some wool wash, a row counter, scissors, your normal accoutrements. But the number one thing you're going to need is a US size 2 circular knitting needle. Or if you choose, you can also use double pointed needles for this pattern. Okay, so we're going to start this cast on with a long tail cast on. And if you need some more information on how to do the long tail cast on, we do have a stitch support video, and you can click on the link above to take you there to refresh you. I'm going to go through it kind of quickly, but I'll still show you all the steps. So I'm taking both strands of my yarn. The first thing I want to do, I'm casting on 48 stitches. That'll also be in your pattern, so don't worry about having to remember it right now. I'm going to pull out a length of yarn. I'm going to make my slip knot. Now the tail of my slip knot is going to be towards my body. The working yarn that's coming from my skeins of yarn are going to be out and away. And for this one, I'm going to use one needle, slide it through, and cinch up my slip knot. So we want our slip knot to be comfortably smooth, not too big and not too small. We want to be able to put our needle through it, but we also need room to knit through that stitch later on. So I've got it on here. It slides around. The tail of the yarn is going to be towards my body, and the working yarn is going to be out. This is the yarn that's coming from my skein. Okay, we're going to go into the slingshot pose, I guess you would say, this way right here. And you go down and around and through, down and around and through. And for this pattern, we're going to cast on 48 stitches. So I'm going to go a little faster here to get my 48 stitches. Now, in case you're wondering about the background, we are on a little vacation getaway. I'm at one of my favorite lake houses in my hometown. This little property is out in the outskirts of my hometown. And it's a nice, rainy, overcast day, perfect for knitting. We have a nice fire going in the background, and I am just relaxing and having the best time being able to knit with you guys and just be home for a little bit. The last couple of days, I've been kind of bumping around my hometown and seeing people and talking, and it's just been rejuvenating to be here, and I'm so glad that I can kind of share a little piece of my home with you guys. So my hometown, the name is Excelsior Springs, Missouri, but if you're not from around here, you'll call it Excelsior Springs, Missouri. I always like to giggle about that because honestly, it may be just my family that says it that way. But, and then we oftentimes shorten it to just Excelsior. But that's where I born and raised, grew up, and it's just outside of where I live now. But still, just coming here just brings me back home. But yeah, it's Excelsior Springs, Missouri. Okay, so I have all my stitches cast on. So now I'm going to join in the round and work on the cuff portion, which is the ribbing section. When I'm using magic loop, what I like to do is bring it to the center of my cord and then bend my cord in the middle and pull it out like this. And then I am in the beginning the setup for magic loop. One other thing I like to do when I'm in this situation and I'm going to be joining in the round and I've started with a slip knot is I like to twist my first and my last stitch. It just gives it a little bit more structure because that is a stress point when you're going around using magic loop. So I know that the very first stitch that I cast on was a slip knot. It's not going to fall apart. It's going to stay there. I'm going to take this double pointed needle and I'm going to slide. That's the first stitch right there. Slide it off. And in case you get a little confused, it's the one not coming from your yarn. There's no yarn coming from that. Now I'm going to take the active stitch. This is the last stitch that I cast on right here. I'm going to take that and I'm going to transfer it to this back needle right here. Let me show you how that's done. Just slide that in, bring it over, whoops, slide it all the way off. Don't worry if it gets a little stretched out because that's attached to your working yarn. You'll be able to cinch that back up. Okay, now this is that first stitch and I'm going to swap it right here on that needle. Now I can pull back like this and I'll show you right now. I pull my working yarn and it tightens that stitch back up. Everything looks fantastic. Okay, now we're ready to just start knitting in the round. Now this is a knit 2, purl 2 ribbing. So basically what that means is we're going to knit 2 stitches and purl 2 stitches. So let me show you what that looks like. So we're going to pull the back needle. We're going to pull out enough cable that we give ourselves some slack. Watch this side, don't pull too much. Okay, now working yarn and slide our needle in to knit. Wrap around that stitch, knit 1, knit 2. Now bring our yarn forward and we're going to purl 2. There's 1 and 2. Go ahead and continue your knit 2, purl 2 ribbing until your cuff is 2 inches. Join me in the next episode and we'll start the cable pattern and work in increases to create the thumb. Remember, you can get a kit with the yarn and pattern at onebighappy.com. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below and click the bell to be notified every time we have a new video. Happy knitting!